collaboration, coherence, and partnership will we achieve our development goals. The development cooperation architecture is being transformed, and together we can build even stronger partnership.
Though perhaps not widely discussed or maybe understood, the Qcpr aims to bring about critical transformation in the implementation in the UN development system.
The Qcpr actually denotes a title, Quadrennial Comprehensive Policy Review. And it's a policy review that the General Assembly utilizes to look on or to look back on issues of coherence, effectiveness, efficiency, and impact of its programs, its funds, and the work of its agencies.
It's actually one of the most important resolutions of the General Assembly in the field of operational activities for development of the United Nations system, as it establishes a key system-wide policy orientation for the development cooperation and country-level modalities for the United Nations system.
This is a very important mechanism of the United Nations General Assembly, where we will be trying to discuss on the relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, and the coordination, and at the end the result and the impact of the United Nations activities for development, one of the main three areas of the United Nations activity. We will be analyzing what has happened during the last 4 years in the area of the activities for development of the United Nations system, but also, as I hope, we'll be providing guidance on the future activities in a changing environment.
The Quadrennial Comprehensive Policy Review is most importantly a review. Member states of the UN assess the internal operation activities for development and assess whether these actions could be done more efficiently. By making it more transparent, the Qcpr will ultimately make the development work of the United Nations more coherent and effective.
It's also utilized to build what we call now system-wide coherence in terms of funds and programs at the United Nations. It's a program that's been developed as a policy review over time from its predecessor, which was called a Triennial Comprehensive Program Review, to what we have today as a Qcpr.
Over the last decade, changes in the economic and political landscape have occurred, requiring inter alia redefining of the roles of states as players, actors, studying the emerging global challenges, and reviewing the role of institutional actors. By reaching the goals of the Qcpr, the UN development system will have the capability to be flexible enough to bring about results in a diversity of countries and circumstances. The challenge, however, is to ensure coherence at the UN country team level, where there is not one size fits all for the staffing or operational activities. To overcome the implementation challenges, the UN will need to not only coordinate among the various department activities, but also create standards or measurements of effectiveness, including gender mainstreaming and empowerment.
Well, the Qcpr is important because it's D, with a capital D, resolution, which defines how the United Nations system deliver development assistance in the field, how the various agencies cooperate, and it also prepares on the future debates related to the reform of the United Nations system by providing for evidence-based analysis.
At the beginning, even just the acronym scares people away almost, right? So while realizing the importance of this, and also the importance for us, particularly Switzerland for us is really important to, we have been always traditionally very active in supporting this. A series of workshops, for instance, organized by UNITA to help members that will participate in the negotiations to get informed about what are the main issues, what's going on, what are the new challenges, and so on.
Switzerland has been traditionally trying to support the process since quite some time, actually already back in 2001, in 2004, and in 2007 we have quite successfully fulfilled the mandate of facilitating the process of these periodic reviews. And in light of the upcoming resolutions and upcoming negotiations, We have tried to preparatory meetings, breakfasts, informal meetings, and also in support and direct contact with the UNITAR to create awareness, understanding for this process of Qcpr, so that we can start the work now in an informed, considered process, and hopefully we have a good, constructive and forward-looking discussion.
The key goals of the Qcpr, efficiency, effectiveness, and harmonization, are especially important in a time of worldwide budget scarcities. These goals, however, do not mean to diminish the diversity of the UN system's organization thematic knowledge, expertise, and specialization, particularly important in a changing world. Therefore, the Qcpr will be crucial as the UN development system gauges the achievements of the MDGs and plans for post-2015 UN Sustainable Development Frameworks.
Since the Qcpr is about efficiency and coherence, the resolution of the General Assembly should address everything which makes the work of the United Nations in the field of development assistance more coherent, more efficient and more effective.
Among the options that the Qcpr will consider is to generalize the instruments of delivering as one, a single programming framework for the United Nations family with a single results framework, a single budget, and possibly a single funding mechanism in the form of the one UN fund.
The Qcpr has much in common with the agenda of system-wide coherence. This is particularly clear with the framework of the Delivering as One initiative.
It brings a coordination from both sides, from the government side and the UN side. It brings a new way of communication. It brings the government in the leading role of telling the United Nations what the country wants them and where their action can fit in the development agenda of the government. Because what's the most important point is how the UN can be complementary to the efforts and programs of the government. So in our case, we shifted from one scheme where the UN would come and tell you, look, we have some money and we want to do something in Albania for the children, for women, for young women, awareness, advocacy, to the complete different way of dealing for us, asking the United Nations what they can do in very specific areas where we recognize their uniqueness in terms of expertise and capabilities, rather than waiting for the UN to come to us.
At the end of 2006, 8 countries volunteered to pilot the Delivering as One approach. As of 2012, the number of countries grew to 23. Together, they are experimenting with ways to increase the UN system's impact through more coherent programs, reduce transaction costs for governments, and lower overhead costs for the UN system.
And why did Kenya decide to become a member? Basically because Kenya has indeed a wealth of UN programs, many of them national in character, others sub-regional and others regional. And with this rich context of UN presence, it's important therefore for Kenya as a recipient of programs to indeed work towards better coherence, more effectiveness, more efficiency and greater impact. And so Kenya volunteered, like many of the initial countries, to become a pilot program and to learn how better to deliver as one.
The initiative has strengthened government leadership and ownership. It is ensuring that governments have access to the experience and expertise of a wider range of United Nations organizations to respond to their national priorities. The Qcpr aims to promote a development system which is able to operate effectively and is flexible enough to bring about results in an array of countries and circumstances. The challenge is to ensure coherence at the country level, where there is not one size fits all for the staffing or operational activities. To overcome the implementation challenges, the UN will need to not only coordinate among the various development activities, but also create standards or measurements of effectiveness.
A resident coordinator system largely comprises of resident coordinator, who he or she is based in a country, leading a UN team, and that UN country team comprises of funds and programs that are represented there, and the resident coordinator has a coordination office. So these three pillars make the resident coordinator system at the country level, and their primary job is to ensure the whole system is working as one.
In simple terms, the UN system can distribute mosquito nets in Ethiopia, provide school meals for children in Cambodia, or support Albania in creating a new poverty map to help the country evaluate and target social spending.
And this is a very fundamental point, because we will have to tackle issues which are linked with the way decisions are taken from the country team at the regional level and, most importantly, at the headquarters levels, because we need to make sure that we give the proper, not only the proper instructions to the people who work on the ground, but we give them more space to really carry on their tasks and implement the projects in a close relationship with the government, but in a shorter time. So we will be asking the wide membership to agree on how to make sure that the United Nations works faster, better, and does more with less.
The UN system is not the only actor in the development field, and many resources and development projects are implemented bilaterally through the Bretton Woods institutions or through regional cooperation. The UN continues to play an important role by building the capacities of different countries and by providing advice to national governments. To stay relevant, the UN will need a secured source of funding. Core and non-core funding play a crucial role for the UN system's operational activities. Core funding allows programs to fulfill the essential functions of their organizations. Very concretely, core funding allows these organizations to pay their rent, their electricity, and the salary of its core staff. Non-core funding generally restricts the use and application of resources to specific activities as determined by the donor. Non-core funding is usually directly linked to a specific project or program that the donor would like to see implemented.
We have found over time that non-core funding has grown by a factor of almost 300 within the same time period where core funding remains stable. The challenge for many member states, including Kenya, is to ensure that this growth isn't that divergent and that indeed core funding continues to grow. The Qcpr will give us insights into the issues of funding for UN programs. That's one of the reasons why the Qcpr is important, particularly for Kenya.
Well, the impact on the ground is, I think, seen largely through the work of the agencies, because the Qcpr provides policy guidance to the UN machinery, the funds and the programs, specialized agencies as necessary, and to the extent that the guidance of the General Assembly expresses the real concerns and needs of countries, the program countries in particular, who are the objects of the UN development assistance. I think through the agencies we can see some impact on the ground in terms of policy, hopefully in terms of resources, and ultimately in terms of the effectiveness in delivering and in affecting the lives of people.
The Qcpr is the opportunity for our member states to agree to update the guidelines of the organization. At the country level, that will provide us with an up-to-date version of the governance mechanisms and the planning instruments that we use to offer our member states a coherent, efficient support for national development.
That brings both sides in sort of a permanent joint effort, and not only in design of the programs, but also in the implementation and in accountability.
So there's a whole range of issues which the resolution should address, and hopefully with a good resolution we make the system more effective and better for developing countries.
The new development landscape requires UN development organizations to work strategically together. The UN system must be effective and increase its work with cross-cutting issues and across institutional borders. It must do so in coordination with UN partners, taking into account the benefits of system-wide coherence. The Qcpr process will help to give the guidance for the UN to efficiently address the respective multidimensional challenges and demonstrate results and impact.